In 1997, scientists recorded a sound so loud it was picked up by microphones 5,000 kilometers apart. Nobody could explain what made it. For years, this single sound sparked theories involving sea monsters, secret military weapons, and creatures no one had ever documented. This is the story of the bloop. In the summer of 1997, hydrophones, underwater microphones designed to detect earthquakes and volcanic activity, picked up an extremely low-frequency sound in the Pacific Ocean. These hydrophones belong to NOAA, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, part of a network originally built during the Cold War to track Soviet submarines. The sound was strange for several reasons. First, its shape. When plotted visually, it rose rapidly in frequency over about a minute, then stopped. Scientists nicknamed it the bloop, purely because of how it looked on paper. Second, its power. It was loud enough to be detected by sensors over 5,000 kilometers apart, an extraordinary distance for any single sound to travel underwater. And third, when researchers compared it to their catalog of known ocean sounds, whale calls, ship engines, seismic activity, nothing matched. The oceanographer Christopher Fox, who led the research team at NOAA at the time, has spoken about how unusual this was. Even after comparing it against every known biological and geological sound signature they had on file, the bloop simply didn't fit any existing category. This is where things got interesting publicly. Because the sound's acoustic profile resembled, in some ways, the calls of large marine animals, but at a scale far beyond anything known to exist, speculation exploded. Could there be an undiscovered creature in the deep ocean, larger than any known whale? Online communities ran with the idea. Some even connected it to H.P. Lovecraft's fictional monster Cthulhu, said to sleep beneath the Pacific in a very similar location to where the bloop originated. For nearly a decade, the mystery remained genuinely open. NOAA scientists continued investigating quietly, without any confirmed answer, while the public version of the story grew louder and stranger with every retelling. Then, in 2005, expanded hydrophone arrays gave researchers a much larger dataset of Antarctic and subantarctic sounds to compare against. And they found something. The bloop's acoustic signature closely matched a phenomenon called an icequake, the sound produced when massive icebergs crack, fracture, or scrape against the seafloor in extreme cold. NOAA officially classified the bloop as consistent with ice-related seismic activity, not a biological sound at all. Case closed, scientifically speaking. But here's the twist that makes this story worth telling. The explanation barely slowed down the myth. Even decades later, the bloop still gets cited in documentaries, video essays, and online forums as an unsolved cryptid mystery, despite NOAA's own public statements confirming otherwise. Which brings you to something worth thinking about. You've probably noticed how a mystery, once it captures public imagination, can outlive its own solution. The bloop was explained scientifically within about 8 years, a relatively short timeline for oceanography. But its cultural half-life has lasted far longer, because giant unknown sea creature is simply a more compelling story than ice cracked in Antarctica. The ocean itself remains almost entirely unmapped in detail, which is part of why sounds like the bloop capture people so completely. Somewhere between what science confirms and what still feels possible, the mystery survives. Not because the evidence supports it, but because the not knowing was more interesting than the answer. In 1997, scientists heard something they couldn't explain. Now you know exactly what it was. And somehow, that still isn't the ending most people remember.